Hi, this is Eric Durek, and welcome to the next edition of our module series for the GLP-1 exercise continuing education course. This is our model manual here. It's not very big. It's got lots of information, hopefully the right kind of information to help you as a coach and a trainer make the best decisions for programming for your clients when they come into your club or when they come into your place of employment. So today, I would like to share with you a very interesting and I hope worthwhile topic on GLP-1 medications and nutrition. And I really am excited about this talk. This is something I put a lot of time in. Like all of our other conversations here, we have a disclaimer that this is an information guide for you. We're not making any claims on curing diseases. We are assisting fitness professionals to help manage obesity to the best of their experience and their abilities. So, any changes in nutrition, any changes in medication status, any changes in behavioral aspects are really something that you need to be in communication with your healthcare professionals with. And that is a very good thing. You're actually enhancing the communication. So, where are we right now in terms of nutrition? Jenny Craig and Weight Watchers are moving very quickly into the GLP-1 space. I spoke in one of our other modules on culture about the rise of fast foods in the 60s and 70s and preservatives and all that kind of stuff. And now we're dealing from the 90s on the GMOs and synthetic additives in foods. And all of these things have really had an impact on how people absorb foods, digest foods, and really what the way they think that how foods are actually should be prepared, as opposed to 2 generations ago when everyone sat down for dinner at the family household. So nutrition and GLP-1 programming, we're going to talk about what's happening with foods. We're going to give a primer on diabetes medications. We're going to talk about phase one, perhaps adding some supplements to enhance mitochondrial function. And again, I'm not recommending any per se, but I do know of some that are on the market that I think have had some very, very good research success over the last 30 years in terms of what they do and how we can actually apply this possibly to people with GLP-1 medication. Phase two is water and electrolytes during exercise and beyond. Phase three is different types of foods, the timing of eating, etc., any types of contraindications for meal planning, and then transitioning into eating for life. All right, so let's get started. So a primer on diabetes medications. Most people are familiar with metformin, which is a glucophage medication that lowers blood sugar. One of the side effects is it may lower blood sugars too much. DPP-4 inhibitors are things like Januvia, which lowers A1C, which is a great medication to have. It actually breaks down the GLP-1 plus the GIP hormones, which I find very interesting. So when we actually have people who are on synthetic GLP-1s that lower blood sugars and they keep the blood sugars longer, these people may also be on a DPP inhibitor, which helps break down their own natural GLP-1. So there may be some sort of a wrangling between the normal peptide and the GLP synthetic peptide. But in general, we're looking at weight loss and possibly a loss of lean body mass over time. So SGLTR drugs such as Farxiga reabsorbs the GI back to the kidneys, lowers blood sugars, keeps weight loss down, etc. And then the basic, and the SGLTR is sodium glucose dependent renal transporter. So they actually work within the renal system to keep to reabsorb all of these types of nutrients back into the kidneys. So, and then sulfonylureas, which have been around for decades, like glipizide, glyburide, et cetera, release more insulin from the beta cells of the pancreas. And again, their side effect is hypoglycemia. With all of these medications, diabetic patients need to figure out the right amount of diabetes med to take during the course of the day, and depending on the amount of calories and carbohydrates that they also take in during the day. So what are the biggest side effects from taking a GLP-1? Weight loss. I mean, it is a weight loss drug. The average percentage of weight loss per month is about 3.5%. The brand name for diabetes is Ozempic. The brand name for weight loss is Wegovy. The brand name for diabetes is Victoza, which I see on television ads quite a bit. The brand name for weight loss is Saxenda. So they're all kind of the same two drugs. They just have different percentages that they're used, and they have different brand names for depending on what they're used for. Um, the other issue with GLP-1 is up to 40% weight loss can be lean tissue. This is where the exercise is critical. Diabetes medications are converted to other brand names that like the Wegovy and Saxenda to be used in weight loss. And I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying that they're actually repurposed and or rebranded. So some of the other effects on the digestive system is that GLP-1s may slow and sometimes stop peristalsis, which is, we know, is the movement of food through the digestive tract. And it may actually cause a condition called gastric paralysis, which is more of a legal issue. Undigested food may begin to rot in the beginning of the small intestines, as opposed to in the large colon, where it actually goes out as feces. And constipation and diarrhea are actually common side effects of taking GLP-1 drugs. And I don't know which one is more prevalent. They're both not that great. From the nutrition side, adding these injections causes a lack of hunger. It slows the digestive process, and it mimics the natural peptides that are used during the digestive process. Again, they may cause some nausea or diarrhea, so registered dietitians usually recommending changing the type and amounts of food that you eat as you're on the medications. Most people don't feel the desire to eat anyway. As a matter of fact, some people may not eat for 2 or 3 days. And this may include not wanting to drink water because it just doesn't have a taste to it. They don't have the same sensation of, wow, I've got to get some water in the system. So the GLP medications limit the peristalsis, which helps move the food. And one of the synthetic ingredients of these drugs is a venom, which is one of the reasons why it causes this gastric paralysis. So I've got a Use Nourish link here that can be done. And one of the things that I have not said in some of the other modules is that if you would like to have some of these PowerPoints, send me an email. It's at the end of this lecture. So let's get food and nutrients into the body of people who are taking GLP-1. The most important thing, as I've said in many modules, and I will probably say in other modules as well, is the use of water. And you have to measure how much water is being used each day. The app right here is myh2opal.com, which this bottle right here, which I actually happen to have on my desk, has a small sensor on the bottom, which will actually measure the amount of water in ounces that is used from the actual container as you're drinking it. So if you fill it up twice, it'll give you twice the amount, and it'll be on your app. Amazing technology. I recommend that people have small amounts of water during and after exercise because if they drink too much, they may want to throw it up. I also recommend the use of these powdered electrolyte formulas that you can just cut and pour into your water. They have a really good taste. This one is an immunity blend with mushrooms, vitamins B, C, and zinc. They have very little calories, if any. I think they have just a few calories. And yes, they have dextrose. Some of them have sucralose, etc. You want to find the ones that have either a natural sugar or something that's not one of the synthetic ones. And there was a question that somebody asked me recently on a podcast about using ozone water. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to challenge you, the students, to do some research on it and see if it's something that your clients may be interested in. Okay, there's no harm in drinking it, but from what I understand, it actually has some very beneficial effects on the system. And for someone who's on a GLP medication, it may even be better. So why amino acids are so important while you're taking GLPs. This particular bottle right here is master amino acid pattern. The original research was done in the 70s. It's patented because it has the ability to absorb in 23 minutes right in the duodenum. There is no other protein source that I'm aware of that can absorb into the cells and be used in the mitochondria at such a short rate. And why is this important in people with GLP-1? Well, if it gets into the small intestines, it might not be absorbed. This will actually be absorbed before it gets into the small intestines. It also has a net nitrogen utilization of 99%. And so what that means is almost the entirety of this tablet is going to be absorbed into the cells, not 40% like organ meats or even 25% like most protein powders. Now, if you're a bodybuilder and athlete, your protein powder enhancement is going to be higher, but it certainly is not going to be at 99%. And lastly, master amino acid pattern has no calories. That is a huge deal for someone who doesn't want to take a bunch of supplements or whatever that may be adding calories to their otherwise almost zero calorie diet. So you're getting all of the benefits of getting amino acids, essential amino acids into the system, and you're not having to drive it through calorically. Are there any other brands? Yes, there are. This is the top selling brands of amino acid supplements. I did a little bit of a dive here from 2018 on YouTube, and they talk about other types of brands. Like I say, if you have the PowerPoint presentation, you can click on that. And if anybody wants to have it, I'll send them the link as well. In one of my other modules, I did talk about high density foods. And one of the ones I recommend was one of our sponsors for a national conference called SOS Nutrients. And what I like about SOS is that it's the only super green micronutrient formula that sources all of its vitamins and minerals from natural sources. There are no synthetic additives in here or synthetic vitamins at all. I recommend that people would take this in very small amounts each day, and they might want to count the calories. 1 tablespoon, maybe 30, 40 calories, etc. You can mix it with water, or you could have it in a smoothie, which is going to be higher calories, but you may be able to get a lot more nutrients into the system. I would check with your registered dietitians and say, hey, what are some of the types of smoothies and drinks that other healthcare systems or other clinics or other wellness centers are recommending that specialize in GLP-1, and see if it's something that your patients may want to have. So protein intake is such a huge deal in with people who are taking these meds. And they're recommending, most professionals are recommending 0.8 grams per kilo up to about 1.6 grams per kilo. Now, I actually spoke with someone who said that they read that some doctors are recommending over 3 grams per kilo. I don't even know if people can digest or take in that much protein in one day. How can they actually keep the food down? Will eating too much meat cause constipation? And again, these are more trial and error type things. And again, I think they're going to be dose dependent. Should I eat meat in every meal? If I want to be a carnivore, maybe that's something I want to do. And what are the best sources for trainers to look at? Trainers may want to recommend, hey, there's an organic meat, or I buy meat at this store, and it's very, very high quality meat. And I think that's going to be another thing. There are a lot of meats right now that have additives in them. I think that most people are going to be looking for organic or grass-fed, range-fed beef, which is probably the best quality meat, because protein intake is one of the big deals here. So chicken, eggs, fish, beef, etc. And I've got a couple issues here, or a couple links here that talk about the Nestle program that they got into the GLP market, and then a food listing of people who are taking semaglutides, and also what kinds of foods to avoid. Meal planning, check with your dietitian, have a meal plan, have it in your file for your clients. Make sure that they're eating dense foods, they're eating small portions, maybe they're eating 3 to 5 meals a day, they're having the higher protein intake. The water, I'm going to say that 100 times, the water content is important. Where would they shop for some of these best foods? And what are the costs? As most people know, the cost of food these days is outrageous. And I think that people on GLP-1s are very happy that they don't buy food. They don't go to restaurants. They don't go to fast food establishments anymore, or very few. And we're actually seeing this in some stores, that the pastry sections and the dessert sections and the ice cream sections are not being purchased as much, because you have a very high percentage of people who are taking GLP-1. They're not eating at all. Can patients wean off their GLP-1 medication? This is a really interesting question. And of course, it's something that's been of interest to me. Now, I'm not a doctor. I can't recommend that patients stop taking GLP-1. But could they actually move from taking the medication to taking a probiotic supplement, which is something that Pendulum Company up in the Bay Area actually produces? Um, I listened to a podcast recently from Dr. Jim. Um, I'll think of his last name here in a second. From Laval, Dr. Jim Laval from the Miura program at Lifetime. And Dr. Laval was talking about titrating the dosage, like we see in this graph here, and actually sort of transitioning patients to what we call the sweet spot here. This is the minimum effective dosage that he has here in the middle, and that's going to be the sweet spot where people are actually getting the best quality weight loss, but they're also with the exercise program maintaining as high of the body composition or lean tissue as possible. And so here we see a titration after 6 weeks, a titration after 6 weeks, and a titration after 6 weeks. So the goal is that they want to maximize the dose to have this minimum effectiveness, and then over time, as the person gets more fit, they'll actually titrate that dose, and in some cases down to zero. And I thought that was an amazing thing that they did. They're setting the standard now for what other clubs that they can work with doctors to use, like they say, this minimum effective dosage. And I think it was a wonderful part of the presentation. So a nutrient program for life, we want to look at density versus just eating calories. So, and when a person is off of GLP-1s, or even if they're having a minimal dosage, they want to change the types of foods they eat, processed foods to organic. They want to discuss any issues with their current diet with their physician, especially with their dietitian. If they have any medical contraindications, there are certain foods they probably might not be able to eat. And you're going to know because they may have an allergic reaction, they may have indigestion, they may vomit, et cetera, et cetera. So it really is a trial and error with each person. And of course, they're going to be working on the food aspects with the nutrition experts, but you're going to write down all the notes during the exercise program. Liberal use of water and electrolytes, use of certain types of vitamins that are mentioned here in this module, mostly from the protein side, but a lot of proteins have a large amount of vitamins in there. And again, if you want to see a deficiency in certain types of vitamins, you may want to ask them to see if they've got a vitamin blood test done, and you can actually see from that panel. And like I say, the long-term game plan, where does a person want to be a year, 2 years, or even 5 years down the road in terms of the types of nutrients that they're putting in their body as opposed to what they were eating before they went on the GLP-1 medication. So Nutrition for Life summary program here is that the GLP-1 medications have been added to a listing from original diabetes meds, both oral and injection, for diabetes management. Up to 40% of the weight loss in GLP patients is lean body mass, and GLP medications limit the peristalsis within the digestive system, which helps moves the food from the stomach all the way through the intestines. Using electrolyte powders can increase the ions that are absorbed into cells. If it's recommended that a food be introduced to the system in small amounts to reduce the likelihood of both constipation, diarrhea, or even something like vomiting. And trainers and coaches should be consulting with their dietitians and their nutrition coaches to do meal planning for GLP patients every single month. So if you have any questions about this module, because there was a lot of stuff there to unpack, you can go to our SurveyMonkey site, or you can log on to medhealthfit.com. You can go to the GLP-1 section, and it'll give you a SurveyMonkey link. Or if you just want me to send you the questions, you can either do 4 or 5 for each module, or you can wait till you're done with the book and you can take the big exam, which is also on SurveyMonkey. It's up to you. But if you have any questions, contact me at directfitness@gmail.com or go to the medhealthfit.com website. And I appreciate you being here, listening to the nutrition, which is a pretty high-end subject. Any questions, give me a call, send me an email or text message or anything, and I'm very happy to call. I don't know if the number was in there, but it was 805-451-8072. And this is Eric Durack, and thanks for watching this module for GLP-1 and exercise.